Hey guys, here to get into one of my all-time favorite films, Almost Famous. The first time I saw this film, I thought it was just okay. I saw this first when I was like in high school, but it took me until about it's like I think I was like 25 or 26, and this film felt like it changed my life the way I perceived it because I saw the director's cut for the first time. I had only seen the theatrical cut at the time, but this is essentially a 3-hour epic, Americana epic, very much by way of Richard Linklater, of studying just a young man kind of just coming of age by way of the rock and roll scene, sex, drugs, rock scene in the purest sense. And I think this film just captures the essence of passion in a person and how much rock and roll can stir passion out of a person. And there's a very original way that every person will possess this kind of energy, but this is a film that just kind of shows just a bunch of people in a world where everyone's just kind of obsessed with music more than they are anything else. And this is kind of just like a celebration ultimately of this lifestyle in the end. That's why this might not sit well with everybody. I certainly kind of feel like this is a slightly polarizing film in a sense because it's almost too happy, too feel good. But this is a unique kind of feel good where it's that universal buzz that Van Morrison evokes. It's like that universal feeling, Um, it's just like a very passionately made that really just engages your emotions the entire way through. It's quite perfect at what it does, and I feel like this is a film. This is certainly a film that kind of looks at a kid growing up, and again, it's like he kind of like gets around all these people, and he kind of. I think when you're around a lot of people like this all the time, you really have you build up something of an intense degree of what you like and what you don't like. If you're a kid like this, and I think it's ironic. I think I've turned to look up to a kid like this now. Like it's like the kid in Licorice Pizza. It's like, okay, that's a better dude than me. Like, it's like awkward, but it's kind of all right because I like it when a film does that better than anything than an actual person doing that to me. I think I've realized that's always how I've liked to roll with all this. But, there's certainly some like depression that comes in with all this too. You feel like this is kind of like a picture of a lot of madness happening. But in the madness, there's just passion coming out. Ultimately, everyone's just having a good time, and it's a very unique exploration that anyone's capable of having passion. I think sometimes there's a fear of just being really passionate about things, and this is kind of a film that just gets into breaking through that barrier and just really embracing your originality in a place in your own kind of way entirely. And there's just a lot going on here with passion. It feels like there's just nothing about and everything about this is just really likable, honestly. Um, a lot of great energy going on here. It just feels like you're just like kind of in the perspective of the kid growing up. You kind of get this vibe like he was kind of like just kind of like a smart kid who just doesn't necessarily fit in with like a school setting, and that's kind of the way it can feel. But then you get into the right environment, and then your intelligence actually comes out like much smoother, and you're actually having a much better time. It's almost like you need to be happy in order for your intelligence to shine. I think I've realized, yeah, I'm the same. And it's awkward to not just be happy ultimately. And this is a film, communicates why a lot of ways. It certainly, just kind of comes down to the foundation of never wanting to be too selfish about your own passions and being able to admire everyone's passions as an equal force to your own greatest passion. That can be sometimes a roadblock that can come in a lot of ways. But this is a film that kind of looks at what it is to and just actually care about other people. It's okay to live sort of antisocial, but within the antisocial, it's like know that yeah, of course I love and care about people. Sometimes that's certainly a timeless foundation. Watching this film, it just reminds me of the feeling you get when you go to like a 3-hour concert and it's just so smooth the entire way through. Um, I really love some of these scenes. It's just like a certain kind of gut feeling. It's like the gut feeling that everyone's experiencing the moment together. And maybe that's the difference between the 70s and now. Now I think we can get that same feeling because we got the internet now. So it's like a little easier. So it's a little easier to get away with being more antisocial. But that's why a lot of this foundation is all the more important because back then people were getting together and feeling this way. So that was the difference. Might have been a little more organic and in tune with humanity. Although nowadays, it's maybe wiser. It's probably the wiser way because now it's like we realize in time, we're capable of just as much as being beautiful people. There can be some crazy things going on inside all that too. So. Mhm. Okay. This film is communicating something of a balance and a harmony that you find when you can let yourself do that. Ultimately, yeah, it's just a perfect feel good film, honestly. And this is just sort of what it is to just see, yeah, youth get into the crazy '70s rock culture scene, In a way that further expands what films like Days of Confused were doing, as far as just like literally just getting to a rock and roll. This is the best director's cut, one of the best director's cuts I've ever seen. Because it literally makes it like the theatrical one just kind of feels like, all right, that was a pretty great feel good movie, but this one, I think it took me a certain age. It might have took me a certain kind of maturity to appreciate what this is, because this is ultimately like a kind of getting too deep. It's also that film that kind of explores in its own kind of way, like it's like a Linklater take on that. Like you go out there, you think there's something big out there, but then in the end you realize there's nothing really. um, I love the screenplay. I mean, the screenplay just really drives us home the entire way through, and it ultimately turns out to be quite a special film. And it's just feel good the entire way through. It actually does retain a feel good nature consistently. This is the only Cameron Crowe film I've loved. I haven't seen anything else by him I've enjoyed really, but this is unique because this is actually autobiographical. He literally grew up as a rock journalist, so that's what makes this feel so great and just so entertaining. I mean, the entire way through, this just has sprinkles of just adventurism. Youthful adventurism that you get into stuff that feels like when you're in a cage, it feels stupid. When you're got like a public setting and everyone's cheering you on, something feels pretty good about it. It's like satisfying the ego, but everyone's getting together, just laughing at it and having a good time mocking it. It's just like awkward moments. There's so many parts where just like characters are revealing way too much about themselves, to the kid. I think that's hilarious. Like it's almost like so much information that it just ends up being even more charming because it's all the more human. The guy, like, a lot of insecurity lives in a lot of these guys. You see throughout the whole way, there's like a lot of burst of joy, but then a lot of burst of like melancholy and sadness living inside of him too. And it just takes you through the full spectrum to something that's very mysterious, ultimately. A mysterious feeling that makes sense in the end. It's all almost like what it is to take in absorb a lot of rock and kind of feel that pretentiousness of like, you feel that like superiority, but then when you're at the community, it's like you gotta be absurd, like you gotta see how absurd all this is. You don't ever like take it too serious. But I love Kate Hudson so much in this. She's just really sweet the entire way through. A very sweet and lively presence as the character Penny Lane. It's just the perfect rock fan. You see all these scenes of her. It's just awesome. Jason Lee's great at it too. He's hilarious, very subtle. The band Stillwater is pretty hilarious. But then I love Philip Seymour Hoffman's like my character performance in this is Lester Baines. It's just kind of a cameo, but he portrays something of like it's a perfect kind of perfect kind of just exploration of just like perfect kind of critic at the time, and in just a lot of ways just taking everything in. And you can tell he doesn't like the Doors, but loves the Stooges, and I'm like, yeah, fully agree on that. But I mean, a lot of this is just really well shot too. I mean, just a lot of good lighting, and the whole thing just feels really full of life and energy the entire way through. All the characters are consistently great and charming. And of course, you have Frances McDormand as like the worried mother. I really love all that. She really steals the show. It's just like something of an overbearing nature, but it's almost just like so much to handle. And I really love that. It's quite an epic. I mean, just the charisma living inside of this just makes this one of the best films I've ever seen. This is incredible. It's just really, really warm, and it does provoke a certain nostalgia, certainly, but it's a nostalgia more that speaks to moving it forward rather than living in it. I don't like the living in nostalgia. I'm just tapping into it so I can move these foundations forward, typically. This just gave me something at a really young age. I didn't like it when I was young. That's the thing. I think I was literally too young to grasp exactly what this is doing, because I think I was subconsciously wanting to go on a journey just like the kid, and I kind of needed to in order to understand this film. Like, just to kind of see something of like get around a bunch of people who are like in this kind of like, I guess, Americana hippie perspective, and just take it all in for myself to kind of come to my conclusions, my perspectives and whatnot. But just great. It's just a great film. I mean, it's just one of those films where it never just gets tiring. It's really a special film. It just feels like it's great to rewatch it. It feels like a cozy blanket. It's just like putting on a cozy blanket and just curling up with a nice warm cup of coffee and having a really special place inside. Very powerful and timeless film. Certainly feels like the best of Richard Linklater. Kind of. Like, that's the way this film feels like. Maybe not as like quite as deep in detail, but this makes more than makes it for just by being sweet the whole time. Like maybe bittersweet's the word I'm looking for. That nice tone of joy and melancholy. Really entertaining the entire way through. I really love all these interactions. Of course, like Penny Lane's interactions with they're great. Not kind of about the boundaries of just not getting too close. She's almost the one that's pushing it. The kid's like, no, set his boundaries. Good. Like, I mean, it's just 3 hours long, and I mean, it just doesn't get old. That's the thing about it. So, turns out to be one of the best coming of age films ever made. I feel like it is kind of up there with Boyhood and whatnot. I mean, it's awesome. But yeah, and of course you got all the scenes of him like interacting with like the Rolling Stone magazine company. They're all just a bunch of assholes. They're so mean. It's great. But yeah, I really enjoy all this. It really is just something else. It's hard to pass a coming of age film that's this good. It just has a pure love for rock and roll. That's again what Richard Linklater films often kind of have. I think Paul Thomas Anderson's getting philosophical about all that. That's like kind of the interesting thing about it. There's just something really, really unique about all this. I'll tell you, it is an original spirit this film possesses. I highly recommend it to anybody, honestly. I can't, this is certainly one of those films I feel like if you watch this version, I just cannot imagine anyone not liking it. This is one of those universal films, like, I feels like. Maybe some Tia is too sappy. Maybe that's the thing. But I just can't see the sappiness because I think it hits just the perfect tone of, again, joy and melancholy. It's also like depressing, but it's also happy. Like it's a nice middle ground, you know. But this film, I think, fully gets that. So, yeah, Almost Famous. Highly recommend it.